Hi guys, my name is Chloe
And I'm Zoe.
and this is Global Glimpses.
Today we'll be touching on the topic of the masculine and feminine energy, as it's something that is very important. I think it's important for everybody to know about both of the attributes and to realize that it's not bad to have either or qualities, that it's normal and actually everyone has both.
I think there's a lot of femininity and masculinity coaches that have started coming up. And like you just see a lot of accounts, like big accounts, like saying like, oh, this is what's to be feminine and this is what it is to be masculine. So I guess the first kind of question is, what is feminine energy and what is masculine energy?
I think we both, as girls, we like to be in our feminine energy, as that's the natural, it feels more natural to be that in that energy, but what does feminine energy really mean?
It's a connection to life. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very nurturing and very patient and very like soft in a way.
Yeah, I think femininity overall is much more of like a emotional energy, and it's so much more of a receiving energy rather than giving energy, and it's so much more about being able to take something that was given to you by a masculine or by more of a masculine energy and then create more out of it. Women and the feminines are so much more of, they're the ones that create life. Of course, like the masculine has to add to it, but the masculine isn't creating the life in himself. It's the feminine, it's the woman that really brings that life into being. And also, I feel like there's been so much misconception when it comes to even how like babies are made, that it's always been a thing that the sperm is the thing that is trying to it's kind of like a race, whoever gets to the egg first. Well, actually, I've recently found out, which I never knew before, that it isn't that way. And even if there is a sperm that comes to the egg and the egg is like, no, I don't like it, it won't open for that sperm. It's only the sperm that it wants it to come to it that comes, and it also sends signals to that sperm to make it go quicker. It's so beautiful, and it's something that's really not talked about, how important that feminine energy is for overall life.
I think you said something really interesting about feminine energy being very receptive, that when women are kind of in their wounded feminine, they find it really hard to be able to receive things from someone, even if they do really need this thing. I think because the masculine is so independent, and if they're in their wounded feminine, like they can't receive because they're like, oh, I have to do this for myself. Like it's that hyper independence that they're kind of stuck on. So it's really interesting that you said that. But you posed another question, which is, what is masculine energy? And I think to me, masculine energy, and can I just say they're both as important as each other. I think with the discussions that have been happening like recently in society, it's almost like it's a war to say which one is more important, and they are opposite ends of a spectrum. Do you know what I mean?
And they're just as important for every single person to have a healthy balance of both.
Yeah.
To be able to work in a society and be, I think, a good person, but a good person is also so subjective. But to just be like a healthy member of the society is so important, to have both of those energies.
Yeah, it's that duality, it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, but yeah, as you're saying, what is that masculine energy?
If we say that femininity is about receiving, then I would say masculinity is a lot about provision and kind of protecting and allowing that nature, the feminine nature, to be able to like nurture something. So you provide something, you put something on the table, and then they are able to nurture it. And it's important like to be able to see them as equals, because it's like if one person's saying, oh, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, then you can't really see the balance in of it all.
Yeah.
So I feel like masculinity is about being a voice as well. Do you get what I mean? Like being able to stand strong and be independent and stand for your own
Because
beliefs.
they are that strength. As much as women are so much more of like a mental and strength from within. I feel like it comes so much from that feminine energy, because feminines they're born with pain. There is this really good quote from Fleabag. I'm not sure what it exactly is, but it's this monologue where this lady talks about how women grow up with pain. They're born with pain. You know, they have periods every month. They're the ones that have to give birth. They're the ones that go through such a massive change in their body, as much as like men do, but men only go through that change once, really, and then after that it's so much more kind of, I feel like, easy, whereas women, it's kind of, it goes up and then down and then up, and it's kind of like it's this never-ending pain. But it's not a bad thing, but it's just like women are born with that, and like we have that pain from within, but the masculine is the one that shields us from the pain from the outside. They're the ones that are physically much stronger than most women. Of course, there's some women that are going to be stronger than some men, but generally speaking, men are strong. In times before like all of these like industrialization and all of these revolutions going on, men had to be the ones doing so many of these jobs because of the fact that they're stronger, and because of the fact that when it comes to like the outside, it's so hard to describe, but they are a bit like that just protection that's like over you, over that feminine. But it's so hard because nowadays in this world, women, like, you cannot just be in your feminine. You are really pushed to be in your masculine, and you really pushed to be that independent person that just can do anything and can lead and can be rational and not like go look at things through their emotions. And that's you know, that's okay, because I had such a strong and very masculine mother. I'm now able to be that independent person, and I'm able to go get work done if I want to, or if I need to. You know, I can put that bread on the table for myself, and I can be that independent person for myself. But that's where the trick is, you know, we're so pushed into that masculine energy, and then, but like, it's, for most women, it is very exhausting to be in that masculine energy all the time, because that isn't what we're meant to have, right?
Yeah. Without that masculinity, the femininity doesn't have the space to be feminine. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're putting into a situation for survival, then you are gonna obviously just try and survive. So in this kind of social economy, like because of capitalism or because of some other factors as well that affect us, a lot of women or anyone that wants to sit in their feminine nature can't do that as much, because the society is built for that kind of masculine energy. But in terms of rounding up that question of what is masculinity, I guess we said that it's just provide, protect, that strength, that rationality and leadership as well.
Yeah, and just courage to be able to go out there and do so many things.
Yeah.
As the woman is more of that nurture, it's all of everything inside, and then the masculine is all of the outside.
The leadership as well. I think that there's been like quite a narrative a lot that women no longer want to be led and no longer want that leadership, and they kind of want that independence, which is true in some cases, but I feel like a lot of women do want that leadership. They just want someone that can take that initiative to be that leader. Do you get what I mean? Like, no one would want to be led by someone that has no clue where they're going. Like, let's go, and they're like, oh, I have no clue where we're going. Like, you're not going to want to be led by someone like that.
And also, you're not even going to feel secure enough to be able to, like, go into that feminine energy, because you're not going to feel like you're able to do that, because you have to be that masculine. Because if that masculine, if the man isn't in the masculinity, it's really hard to be feminine. But also, let's make one thing clear. Both genders, both women and men, they both have both of the energies, and it's so important to have a healthy balance of them. Because when you have a healthy balance, that's when you can go into, I don't know, you are a CEO for example, and you need to come up with some creative ways of solution. That is so much more, that is that feminine energy. The creativity is so much more feminine. So to be able to be a good leader, be a good CEO, they have to be obviously that leader, the leadership, and they have to be that masculine, but they also have to be nurturing and empathetic, and they have to, you know, be creative. So it's about the balance of both, but also it's about what you feel comfortable in the most. Just because you're a woman, it doesn't mean you have to be feminine. If you're comfortable in that masculine energy, if you're comfortable being like the breadwinner of the house and taking on those responsibilities, and you want your partner, and your partner is more, that is a man, is more in their femininity, and they want to take care of the house, and they want to be like the house man, there is nothing wrong with that. It's about finding balance. It's about figuring out which energy you feel the best in, and then striving to get to that point.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that nobody is 100% feminine and nobody is 100% masculine. Everybody has both of those energies within them. Like, as for myself, I would say that I predominantly sit in my feminine energy, but at the same time, when I need to get something done, I can really like use that masculine energy inside myself to maybe just have that extra bit more strength or that leadership that I need for myself. And like, it's not offensive to be in either as well. Do you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people will say something like, oh, you behave like, relate that to like a masculine or a feminine in a way to insult someone, but it's not an insult at all. They are energies that every single person has. Like, just because you sit on one side of that or the other side doesn't make it a good or bad thing. It's duality. It's a spectrum. You're gonna lay somewhere on that, whether it's the middle or either side of it. So I think that answers the question of, can you possess both feminine and masculine energies?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's like we come from both, you know. We don't come from just one. Of course, the feminine is the one that brings the life, but you have to have that masculine with it. So you have half of the traits from the feminine, half of the traits from the masculine. So of course you're gonna have both. But I think obviously it's difficult, as with today's society, you know, moving on to kind of a little bit more of how it works outside in the real world. Because we live in that patriarchy, it's like a really bad thing to be in your feminine energy, you know. It's become such a negative thing that, you know, like a man can't cry, he can't show his emotions, he has to be like that hard shell all the time, and so many men are suffering because of it, and also so many women are suffering on the other side of the spectrum because they have to be so in the masculine energy to get anything done. Putting that pressure on either side is not good, and you know, to live in a patriarchy and like really get into that, because we're getting to that age now where we're really starting to understand how the world works and really seeing those things and how they affect people.
You brought up a really interesting point there, because I think a lot of people from like a Western perspective, you can tell that like the work life career is very much scolded. That's not the right word. Sculpted around like the masculine. Do you know what I mean? That masculine energy. Even the way that the work day is set up, because men have that 24-hour hormone cycle where they get a boost of testosterone in the morning. So that's why work days usually start in the morning, when they get that boost so that they can get up, and it works perfectly so that it's cyclic for them.
And then you have that you have that slump in the day, where people say, oh, it's like a midday slump. And that midday slump is only a thing because that's how the testosterone cycle works, and around the midday it drops before it goes back up. Sorry.
It's fine. The temperatures that they set in offices, I read, are like a different temperature to what is ideal for women. It's actually set to what is ideal for men. So it's all these little things that kind of contribute to the bigger picture of maybe women in today's society not being able to tap as much into their feminine energy because of the structure of society. So as a woman, as opposed to men, that 24-hour hormone cycle, women have a 28-day hormone cycle alongside that 24-hour hormone cycle. And like, if you look at that, there's going to be times in there that they're going to be so much more productive, do you know what I mean, and get work done. But because they're living in a society, in a work society that isn't built to that for them, they struggle to tap into that energy, and they have to almost tap into that other energy if they're going to fit into that environment.
While we are quickly on the topic of like the 28-day cycle, I was thinking, as you are such an expert on this, could you give like a very quick synopsis, just so for people that might not know anything about the cycle of women? Because I feel like most people only know, you have the 5 to 7 day menstruation, and that's it. That's all that people know, and maybe during another phase there's ovulation. That's all that's really known about. And could you maybe like just quickly explain like how it impacts a woman?
So the woman hormone cycle is set into four stages. For the purposes of this, to keep it short and sweet, we just stick to the two. So there's the follicular phase, and then there's the luteal phase. So the follicular phase is from when you menstruate, from the first day of your period until ovulation. And during that time, the first 3 to 5 days, usually this can vary from woman to woman, you'll bleed, and then once you stop, you tend to have a boost of energy and a boost of testosterone and be able to get more done. And then this time, you actually, as you get closer to your ovulation, you have clearer skin, and you just feel a lot better overall. And then you hit ovulation, which is where the egg is released. Then there's a stronger possibility of pregnancy or fertilization. And then you go into your luteal phase, which is, a lot of people say it's like the autumn and the winter of your period. Your energy starts to decrease. Some of you know about PMS. If you struggle with PMS, give us a like, because we know the struggles. And then it starts all over again, and you start to bleed.
Just to let you girls especially know, every woman's different. Every woman has a different cycle. So some women like me have irregular periods. So for me, what helps is writing my cycles down, and obviously the irregularity of it is still kind of regular. But like, it's completely okay. There's nothing wrong with you. If you some girls are lucky and they only have 3 days of periods. Some days, some girls have it longer. So honestly, the best thing for you as a woman to do is to either open a period diary, or there's this app called Flow that I really recommend, where you can put down kind of when you start your period, and then you can put notes down, so that you can track your cycle, so that you know as a woman when you're kind of going to be feeling how, depending, you can plan your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it'll change your life actually. Once you get into it and you start to understand your own body and what's going on at different times of the month, it is the biggest game changer, because so many women, they feel like they're fighting against themselves, when it's because you're not fighting with yourself, you're not figuring out where you are in that cycle. And this is not only for women as well. If you are a man watching this and you have a girlfriend or a partner, you have cracked the cycle once you have this unlocked, because then you can tell, like, okay, where is she in the cycle? Is she gonna have lower moods? Like, if I try, like, even libido, like, it has such an effect on your libido and like things like that. So you can start to understand your partner a little bit better. Even as a woman, like, you can do a little bit of research onto the male hormone cycle, so that you can understand your partner better, because it's all biology. Do you get what I mean? It happens to all of us, maybe in different ways. And the more that you know about it, the more that you can use it to your advantage and be able to work with yourself or work with your partner that struggles with their periods, to be able to help yourself out a little bit.
Especially that I feel like we live in such a society that puts a lot of pressure on us to be perfect, and a lot of pressure for us to always be on our best behavior, which like we end up putting pressure on ourselves. It doesn't even feel like it's other people. Other people might not be directly doing it towards you, but because obviously, I don't know, you had a childhood where your parents were quite hard on you, or where people at school were quite hard on you, you ended up kind of creating that inner, what do we call him, an inner critic. You end up kind of getting, and then you're talking to yourself, or you are in that last phase right before your menstruation, and you're thinking, why am I acting this way? Why am I feeling like this? And you end up like putting so much pressure on yourself, even though that is nothing to do with you per se. It's literally just your hormones. And because you then can understand that, you can be like, okay, I don't have to put that pressure on myself. I know that maybe these days I just have to take it a little bit easier. And I think, but I do recognize that it is quite difficult. And not just for women, for men as well. I feel like especially for women, because our whole lives we've just been trying to adapt ourselves into the man cycle, which just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like you can try and you can get better at it, but you're always going to be sacrificing like something, something about how you're feeling, or it is always going to be like a sacrifice, because unless you're actually figuring out, okay, this is how I'm working, this is what works best for me on those days, and planning your life around your hormone cycle rather than trying to plan your hormone cycle around your life, because it doesn't work that way. We're humans, we have a certain cycle, and the society we live in is extra hard because we live in patriarchy, and on top of that, we're living in a capitalistic society, especially in the UK, in the Western world. And it's so difficult because you're trying to balance something that it's not really possible to balance, because it's the capitalistic society wants you to be 100% productive and always on your best behavior and always, doing everything. Whereas especially as a woman, it's just not always possible. You're 100% right before you ovulate is a different 100% than after your ovulation,
Can I just jump in there? Like, sometimes I hear women saying like, like, all the way through the month, like, I don't get much done, but then I have my, like, these, like, 3-4 days where I can do every single thing that I needed to do that month. And, it's so crazy, because once I was able to start tracking it and, like, looking at my own life, like, I would come up to, like, my ovulation time or period, and I could literally, in 3 days, I would bang out a month's worth of work. Simple. I would set up everything that I need to set up. I would set up my routine. I'd set up everything in 3 days.
No, but that's how the feminine energy works, though. I feel like that's why it's so difficult, because we're so used to having to be 100% in that masculine and work like men, and it's just unrealistic, and it's like women in a lot of situations, women are so much more productive than men, even though that they might be less productive throughout the most of the month, but because throughout those 3 or 5 days, however long that phase is in your cycle, you end up just doing everything, or you end up even doing more than a man could do, even if they were working consistently, you know, every day. I feel like it's very, very difficult right now in the patriarchy. I think it's getting easier, the fact that people have this knowledge and that people are finding out more and more about like our nature and how it really is, and how we're supposed to work, rather than trying to work how these companies or how these businesses trying to make us work. Because obviously these massive companies, these massive corporations, like they want you to be as productive as possible because they want the most money, you know? It's not personal per se, because actually they're not thinking about you as a person personally anyway. They're seeing you as a means to an end, you know? So that's why it's so important to always put yourself first. Make sure that you're doing what's best for you, because if you don't, that business or that other person is not gonna do that for you. Okay, so kind of diving a little bit deeper into the feminine and the masculine energy. So there is different roles that each plays in a relationship. And what are those roles? What are the differences between the feminine energy in a relationship and the masculine energy in a relationship?
I think that the most important thing is that one knows themselves. Do you get what I mean? Like, because if you think about them being the polar, everybody is heard like opposites attract. So if you look at your own nature inherently and you are more masculine, you may look for someone that is more feminine to find that balance. Do you know what I mean? But then again, everybody is different and like holds a different capacity for both of those energies. I think that once you are able to know yourself and identify where you fall on that bracket, then you can look at a partner that complements you and vice versa. So like, as for myself, I'm super feminine when it comes to my relationships. Like, I very much like to sit in my feminine energy. I very much like to stay that side of the line. That's just how I am. So when I'm looking for a partner or someone that I want to engage with romantically, I'm looking for the opposite. Do you get what I mean? Like, I'm looking for someone that naturally sits more in their masculine energy, because then we balance each other out. Do you get what I mean? Like, then we can find that natural balance, that balance that works for us. So I think they do play a part in a lot of relationships, but there's some people that don't mind picking up any role of feminine or masculine, and people that are just very versatile and they can do both, and their partner can do both as well, so they don't have those specific like roles as well. I think this kind of falls in at the same time with gender roles in relationships. Recently, a lot of women and men have been kind of re-evaluating those roles and like what the feminine and what the masculine roles are in relationship. A lot of women feel that as like in the last 100 to 150 years, like they've had the right to vote and work, they've kind of picked up a lot of that masculine side, and they go out to work and they are in their masculine energy, but as well they still have the responsibility of picking up all of the weight of the feminine side of that relationship or partnership or household, so that may fall under the bracket of domestic labor and emotional labor, and you know, just the feminine things that make a house a home.
Taking care of children and making sure that, you know, all the, like as you said, like all the little things are done.
It's about finding that balance, but a lot of women recently have been like, okay, I'm picking up that 50% possibly, if you are. And as well, I've got all of this domestic labor, and they are like almost having a fight on the gender roles and stuff. But at the same time, I feel like a lot more women are willing to fall into their feminine energy if they are given the opportunity to do so. And I think that a lot of women are not being given the opportunity to do so. Do you know what I mean? And similarly with men as well, I feel like a lot of men want to fall into their masculine energy, but because they're with partners that are in their masculine energy, they are almost having to fall into their feminine energy and vice versa. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Because as I said, like I've been brought up by a very masculine mum, because obviously she was the only parent. So to really bring up your children, of course that femininity is important, but to like have a successful life as a person, I would say that masculinity is the key. Especially in the society we live in at the moment. Like you have to be independent, you have to like have that courage, and you know you have to be strong. So I personally would put myself more as a masculine person. Like I've always looked for partners that were more feminine because I was so in my masculine energy that I needed that femininity from my partner. But recently, I've been realizing, actually, you know what? This is no fun for me. I don't like being in my masculine energy. Like, I don't like doing it. I've realized how strenuous that is for me, but I'm still working on being more feminine, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I'm getting to a point where I am so much more balanced, but I do definitely come more from that masculine. But I want to get to the point where I'm balanced because I want to be able to be in a relationship where I can be in my feminine energy finally.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? If you were to give someone your best tip on how to be in their feminine energy, what would that tip be?
That's such an interesting question. Okay, so let's think about it. I think being in your feminine really starts with boundaries. It starts with boundaries because without boundaries, and I know that boundaries come from the masculine in your life, because the only reason why I struggled my whole life with my boundaries is because my dad, my first divine masculine that I met in my life, wasn't able to give me those boundaries. He didn't want to, you know. I was his little baby girl, and he didn't want to give me those boundaries. He wanted me to just feel like I can do whatever. But because of that, I've really struggled my whole life within relationships to put down those boundaries. And I feel like being in your feminine energy is literally, it's just receiving. It's just being able to sit there and look pretty and know that things are gonna get done by the other party, you know? And like, I guess my tips would be, to improve being able to set boundaries, because once you can set boundaries, like that is like a big part of relationships, because as humans it's so normal for us to, even if we don't mean to, kind of take advantage of nice people and of people that give a lot, because those people give a lot, so you're thinking, okay, they're giving me all of this stuff, so clearly I can take, and I can take more. But in a lot of situations, people are people pleasers, just like me, and they give and they give and they give, and they don't know when to stop, because especially, this is another topic for another day, but especially if you have an anxious attachment style, you will feel like you need that validation from other people to feel loved, you know? And there's so many little bits that come into it. That's why it's such a broad topic. But I think, as I said, like being able to set those boundaries is so important, and it's the most important thing. And then after that, just really doing what you want to do for yourself. And like, I think women have been really brainwashed. Please don't fight me in the comments about this, because it's just in the way of like, I don't know, all of the Disney films and everything has been kind of like really put us in a situation where a woman doesn't have value, or isn't portrayed as having value unless she has a man, unless that there is that man on her side, unless she's able to attract that masculine. And like our whole lives have been molded to work around men. If you're, you know, in your late 20s and you don't have a boyfriend, or you don't have a partner, or you're not married, or you don't have kids, there's such a big pressure from the society to be all those things, and to have all of those things, and to do all of those things. And it's really hard, because I feel like it's so difficult for a woman to be in that receiving energy if she's constantly looking for that masculine, because you're not receiving, you're trying to chase, and you cannot like attract what you're chasing, you know? What is that? Yeah, it's I don't chase, I attract. Like I don't. And it has been so difficult, I feel like, for a lot of women to feel fulfilled in their lives, because, for example, they don't have a partner, they might not be as fulfilled romantically, so they think that because of that, their lives is just not good. But the reason why I'm saying all of these things is because to be able to be in that receiving energy of a feminine, I feel like you have to have a good balance of that masculine energy in you already, as we said, because without that masculine energy, the feminine cannot come out. So I feel like if you are really in touch with your masculine energy and you're able to use it in a healthy way, then it's so much easier to then be able to be like, okay, I'm now able to give myself to the femininity. It's just about realizing that everything you have is within you already. You don't need a man to make you happy. You don't need children. You don't need to be married. Like, you don't need any of that. And I feel like as soon as you find that power within yourself, and you're able to set those boundaries, and you're able to see, okay, you know what, I don't actually need that man, that's when you're finally able to rest and be able to be like, you know what, I'm going to sit pretty, and the right man will come when he's meant to come. There is no point in me looking for him. There's no point in me chasing just for that validation of having that male energy around you. Being able to sit down and be like, okay, I've done enough. I've done everything that I need to do. And the person is going to come when they're meant to come. But like being in that feminine energy is about I feel like it's very like that dilly-dally. You can just dilly-dally and you can just love life and just do everything that you want to do, and make sure that you keep your life to you and realize that you are complete. You're not a half. You are complete as yourself. And when you get to that divine timing, in that divine timing, that masculine is going to come, and it's going to be the best masculine that's going to rock your world, and that's going to give you so much of that masculine support that you can just be constantly in your feminine, and you have to never even think around your masculine. You know? I don't know, I think it's such a big topic. It's so hard to kind of make it concise because there's so many things that go to it and go to being feminine, because it's so much more than just femininity, because you have to think about everything else. You have to think about social constructs, if you were living by yourself on a deserted island with like access to internet, then sure, I'm sure you could just purely focus on that feminine energy. But because there is so much more to life than just that, and especially in the Western world, we do live in a patriarchy, so it's hard to just say, oh, feminine is just this, you know, because you have to have that right balance in this world, in this society, to be able to thrive.
What you said about boundaries is so important. It's one of the most important things, because but men are going to do whatever you let them do. If they can get away with, you know, the bare minimum, doing the bare minimum, and you're still going to let them do what they want to do, and I think you know what they want to do, then that's all they're going to do. Do you know what I mean? And then you won't be able to be in your receptive, because you're giving them everything that they're looking for, and you are not setting those boundaries for yourself. And that's why you're crying, because you're like, oh, you know, oh, I did this and this and this for him, and he's still treating me like A, B, C, D. Yeah, because you're allowing him to treat you like that. When you set your boundaries and you sit there and you're like, I'm the queen, I am the person that's in charge of my own life, I am the person that's in charge of my love life. When someone comes with an offer that makes you go, then you're going to say no, because you have those boundaries.
And you are the price.
Yeah, and you know that it's about knowing that you are enough by yourself, because I think for a lot of women, they think to themselves, like, even the simplest of things, like a man taking them out for dinner, and they're like, oh my god, I feel so bad because, you know, I feel bad that but if you knew your own value, you wouldn't even say that, because your value is worth more than just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dinners out. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what you're worth. So you sit there and you say, okay, I know what I am worth myself. This person, do they know what I'm worth? Are they behaving in a way that reflects that they know what's going on here? Are they behaving in a way that reflects that they know that I am the prize? Do you know what I mean? And once you're able to love yourself like that, you can so much more comfortably sit there and like be willing to receive, because you understand that you have, your nature is, it's not just receiving. Women receive and multiply. Do you know what I mean? You've heard this before. You give a woman a house, she makes it a home. You give a woman a sperm, she'll give you a whole baby. Do you get what I mean? Like a whole child with life, you know? So it's that kind of thing, like, no, just because you do not bring the same thing in the relationship does not mean that the thing that you're bringing is not as valuable. And you don't have to try, like, as for myself, like if I'm in a relationship with someone, a masculine person, I know that their strengths are different from my strengths. Do you know what I mean? So I don't try to compete with him, or I'm going to try compete with him to do all of these things that he can do in his most inherent, like, masculine energy. I watch and I'm like, okay, match. And because he's giving, you know, and I'm receiving, I'm able to make something so much more beautiful out of that, you know? And it's just about having that self-worth and that, like, understanding, okay, this is who I am, this is what I accept, this is what I deserve. Then you can so more comfortably sit and just be like, okay, everything that I need and that I need to attract is coming to me, and I can just, the universe is working with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, not to harm me, not against me. So I can just sit and receive and take what it gives me and make something beautiful about it.
Beautiful. Sprinkle, sprinkle.
Sprinkle, sprinkle, girl.
But like as you know, Chloe said, like, don't get me cancelled. The thing is, like, as I said, it comes from both. No matter if you're a masculine or a feminine, like, people will take and take and take as much as you give. So that's why those boundaries, no matter what sort of relationship it is, if it's a friendship, if it's a partnership with you know, the person that you want to be with, no matter if it's a man or a woman, no matter if it's a relationship with your parents, whatever the relationship is, like, no one is gonna put you first if you don't put yourself first. Nobody, because they're gonna see, okay, this person doesn't have that self-worth. Why would I put them first if they cannot do that for themselves?
And even if you don't believe it, fake it until you make it. Confidence is the funniest thing because nobody knows if you're faking it or not.
Yeah.
If you walk into a room looking confident, no one knows that you're shivering inside and you're thinking, oh, I don't deserve this, I don't know. Fake it until you make it, girl, honestly.
Just be the Lulu.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's actually the best
solution.
It's actually the best thing the best piece of advice we can give you, because I also think that living in this world, there is a lot of people trying to go against so much of the spiritual stuff. Whereas that's the reality of things. No matter if you believe in it or not, the people that believe in it are the ones that are on top. They know about all of this stuff. They know about it from literally birth. Their own parents tell them about this. And they don't want to share it with people, with working people, with normal people, because they're like, nah. Because if we do that, who's going to work for us? Who's going to do all of these things? No one. And it's the whole spiritual thing is just about, realizing this 3D world that we know, none of this is really real. When you really deep it and go into it and realize, as much as this feels real, it's just a projection for my body to be able to, and for my soul to be able to experience something that's tangible rather than in your head, because a lot of people say, after you, for example, after you die, how do you know what's true, what's not? How do you know that wasn't in your imagination? Just because it was in your imagination, how does that not make it real? And I feel like the 3D world has blinded us with all of these physical things, with all of these watches and computers and diamonds and expensive shoes and jewelry, everything. We've been so blinded by the tangibles, and we're so caught up in the world of the tangibles because that's the easiest way to make sure that people are not in the divine energy, that they're not doing what they're meant to do, and they're not living the life that they could live, because life is not supposed to be hard. It really isn't. And whoever's telling you that life's supposed to be hard is lying to you. They're literally lying to you because they want to keep you in that mindset so that you work for them, so that you do all of these things out of fear, out of that lack mindset. Genuinely, that's the biggest kind of, I think, piece of advice that we can give. Just fake it till you make it. And it doesn't mean, no matter how confident you think someone is, that person will still feel a certain type of way. I am a very outspoken person. If I feel a certain type of way about something, I will say it. It doesn't mean that when I'm saying it, I'm not feeling nervous. It doesn't mean that when I'm saying it, I don't feel certain kind of feelings coming up, or I'm like, oh, maybe I'm being like this, or maybe I'm that. But it doesn't matter as long as you stick to it, and as long as you no one, who's gonna know? How are they gonna know? How would they know? Genuinely, how would they know? They're not gonna know. As long as you're saying things clearly and you're looking that person in the eyes, and no matter how nervous you are, you're just going and telling them your truth, what are they gonna say? They cannot tell you and go to you say that you are a coward, because you're not a coward. Even if your voice did shake, you still went and you said your piece and you said what was meant to be said.
So what tip or tips would you give somebody trying to be more in their masculine energy?
I feel like masculinity has been really misconstrued, and there has been a big misconception of what being a masculine is. Because being a masculine doesn't mean that you're supposed to be a rock, emotionless, without, any feelings. It's about realizing, okay, I have these feelings. I have this emotional part of me, and realizing that's okay. No matter if I'm, you know, I think it's easier for us as women to say that, but genuinely, it is okay. Like, I personally, I love a man that can go in their feminine energy, because the whole point, I feel like, especially with masculinity, the point with masculinity, I think with both, is like, you cannot be in your masculine without knowing your feminine. You cannot be in your feminine without knowing your masculine. And as a genuine, divine masculine, you have worked through that feminine side of you, which is obviously working through all of these misconceptions that you've learned about not being able to cry or talk about your emotions and doing all of that. Because I feel like, as a strong masculine, I feel like the biggest masculine thing that you can do is to be so secure in your masculinity that you can be feminine and you're good with it and you feel comfortable with it. Masculinity, as we said, is that like independence and just being able to get things done and be able to be strong and know that no matter what the situation is, no matter what's happening in your life, you can and you will get through it. That is, I feel like that is the biggest kind of part of masculinity, is that strength, because that is such a core, such a big foundation. So I would say that definitely my biggest tip would be to find that strength within yourself and realize that you are your own person and you are so magnificent the way you are. You know, what makes you you is those individual little things, and realizing, okay, like, I can be strong, and that no matter what, I know I'm gonna get it done. I know I've got the discipline and the power within me to get it done, you know. And no matter what it is that I want, I can think of it and be like, okay, no matter what it is, I want to have 1 million next year. You literally can. Like, in the next month, I want to make a certain. You can do anything. You literally can do anything. And I feel like that. But to do anything, I think it does require that, having that masculine energy within yourself. Yeah, but what about you? What would you say that were some tips of being in the masculine energy?
I think a big part about being in your masculine energy is being able to plan and have a vision. I think that is like a huge part of it, because when you think about it, like, if you are looking to attract someone more in their feminine energy, that person is going to be looking for direction. Do you get what I mean? You may not be there yet, and I think a lot of women that you speak to, they will be like that's the main thing that they're looking for. Like, the guy may not be where he's going right now, but as long as he's got that vision and he's like, this is what I want to do, that motivation to be like, this is where I see myself, like, this is where, like, that strength within themselves and where they see themselves going, then she can be like, oh, a man with a plan. Do you know what I mean? A man that I can follow, you know? So it's just about, like, planning and being able to, like, see that strength and value in yourself to, like, as Zoe said, you can do anything. Like, literally, the only thing that stops you from achieving anything is your own mind. Because that's the only thing that stops you from going for it. How do you know that it's not you that's able to build that $1 billion business? How do you know that it's not you that's able to, like, start whatever it is that your heart desires? It comes from you and it comes from planning. So, like, I would say, like, if you don't plan, you'll plan to fail. Like, it's a huge, like, aspect of masculinity for me, is like being able to plan and being able to have that leadership and have direction. So if you're looking for somewhere to start, I think that would be the best place.
Let me write that stuff down. Seriously,
but anyway, I think we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the video, give us a like and a thumbs up, and give us a comment on what you feel like is a top tip for being in either your feminine or your masculine energy. Anyway, I think that's it for today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the video, give us a like or a thumbs up, and give us a comment on your top tips about how to be in your feminine or your masculine energy. We'll have the links for all of our other social medias linked below. And in our next episode, we'll be discussing on modern feminism and the patriarchy. So join in for that, either here on YouTube or on one of our other social media platforms that will be linked down below.
Yeah, also, if you feel drawn to listening to more topics like this, we honestly go into every topic. We are just all about expanding our knowledge, and we go into so many different topics about the world and about different energies and about spirituality and just everything, really. So if you're interested, if you like the way we talk, subscribe, or as Chloe said, check out our social media. There's going to be linked below. And if you want to listen to this more as a podcast rather than a video, feel free to go on Spotify or Apple Podcast. But yeah, anyways, guys, stay blessed. It was so nice to be here with you today, and until next time.